All right. Hello, sir. Good evening, morning, afternoon. This is my family, and I'm talking about Rome, which you can't really see, but I am talking about Rome. Anyways, Rome was one of the largest empires ever recorded, and I'm sure it's one of the greatest empires, even more so than Alexander the Great, which came before them, and they basically defeated the Macedonian armies by basically outmaneuvering them with horses, fighting the. Hang on, I have a slide on this. All right, so this is the traditional Greek phalanx, and it's all just infantry soldiers with shields and spears. Anyways, the way they defeated them, the Romans, was they used a shorter style of sword named the gladius, and they had, and the battlefield was that they fought on uneven grounds, which would cause gaps in between the soldiers, and they would move into them and basically just cause a lot of damage. And if that didn't work, they would just get on horses and do a cavalry charge. And it basically ended this style of warfare for a long time, but the Romans themselves were not invincible, because soon after, the Roman Empire was split into two because they could not control all the territories that they conquered, basically. So this was the Eastern Roman Empire, Constantinople. Well, no, it was called Eastern Roman Empire. Constantinople was the capital city. It was established by the split in 286 AD. And not long after that, the Holy Roman Empire fell to Gallic tribes, and they called them barbarians, but well, I don't think they were barbarians, but it's easy to, be sour. This city was protected by walls called the Hippodrome, and it stayed unconquered all the way up to 1453, all the way from 286 AD. And how it was conquered was basically cannons. The Turks pulled up with cannons, and they basically blew down the entire wall. And that's when it was renamed Istanbul, which used to be Constantinople. And yeah, there's a whole song, but I'm not going to sing that. It was named after Constantine the Great, the first Christian emperor. He was the first pagan emperor by Roman standards. He accepted Christianity after he saw Jesus in a dream, and he basically was saved. He made Christianity legal, and he moved the capital from Rome, Italy, to here, Constantinople. And then, yeah. Anyways, I've skipped around a lot, but don't worry about it. The three periods of Rome was, the first period was the period of kings, 625 to 510. There were 7 mythological kings, but the first was Romulus. Now, Romulus had a twin brother named Remus, and they were basically, the story goes that they were raised by wolves, and they were the sons of a god of war. And over time, Romulus and Remus disagreed on how they should rule Rome, and Romulus, it wasn't called Rome, it was just a bunch of cities that gathered together to form a sort of city-state, I guess, if you could call it that. And basically, they formed together to defend against outside threats, and they established themselves as a trade center. And anyways, Romulus wanted to control that city, and so he killed his brother Remus, and it was named after him, Rome Romulus. And then 7 mythological kings later, we got to the Republic of Rome. And this was the first republic in the world, and it was called, their motto was Senatus Populusque Romanus, which basically means Senate and the people of Rome. But it wasn't the people that decided, it was the upper class. The upper class of Rome is called the partisans. It was basically the rich and the noblemen of that time. But later, a little guy called Caesar was a famous general, and he was born in 100 BC. And he named the whole month after him. That's where we get July from Julius. Now, the way he got his infamy and fame and political power from was from the Gallic Wars. And it was a preemptive war, even though he claimed it was for the safety of Rome and its people, but all the historians agree that he did it for political fame and to basically assure himself a seat at the Senate. He was part of the first triumvirate. There's three people, Gaius, Pompey, and him. Now, Pompey stayed in Rome while Caesar went off to fight in the Gallic Wars. And he was so good that Pompey began to fear him, and he said to come back to Rome at once and relinquish his command as a general. But he refused, so then he built a bridge across the River Rhine and brought his entire army to Rome, and which triggered a civil war, and in it, he killed Pompey. He killed Pompey and became the sole dictator of Rome for about 8 years. Well, no. He became the dictator of Rome for the remainder of his short life, which came to an end when he was stabbed 23 times by senators that wanted to rebel and not install him as dictator. But then those 23 senators were then killed by his best friend, Mark Antony, and that came the end of the Republic of Rome. And Imperial Rome was 31 BC to AD 476. This is where Rome rose to its height of its power, expanded throughout most of East Asia, Europe,